I'm Mr. James from Charm City Karate. This is our TUF 19 review, episode 3. All right, so this episode you've got Spohn versus Monagahan. Yeah, Spohn versus Monagahan. So, Spohn, he's got his coaches changing up his style. You know the guy's a knockout hitter. He had a wicked knockout on the get into the house fight, but they decided to change up his style. They want him to go ground and pound. I don't know what that's about. He'd rather hang and bang. Gotta wait for the fight to see what happens. His team decided they wanted to get some mats for the house so they could do some extra training. All right, 2 issues with that. I mean, I don't care what you do. You're bored in the house, I get that. 2 issues. 1, severe risk of overtraining. You guys remember what happened when Matt Hughes had a team and he was coaching? He overtrained the pants off of those guys. They were dropping like flies because they were training too much. They didn't get enough rest. So, serious risk of overtraining. And the other problem, are they going to keep the mats clean? Don't keep the mats clean, serious risk of staph infection, all kinds of other grossness. So we'll see what happens, man. You know, just because they're good athletes doesn't mean they're going to take care of the mats and each other. We'll see what happens. Monagahan, coaches wanted him to keep his head up. They focused entirely on the striking side of the match. So maybe that does show you that Spohn's coaches were a little smarter because they were like, oh, get him on the ground. Told him not to drop his hands when he was backing up. Don't back up in a straight line. All good coaching for the striking side. Apparently they ignored entirely the ground game. Yeah, so, and then Spohn's like warming up on his knees. I don't know what that's about. So, apparently neither did BJ Penn. Frankie Edgar had a really good warm-up for Monagahan. They were all excited. Tail of the tape, incredibly similar. It's the second matchup we've had where the guys have been nearly identical. Spohn had like a 2-inch height advantage and 1-inch reach advantage. Height and reach don't really matter that much once you get on the ground. Why do I mention get on the ground? Because the entire fight was spent on the ground. All right, not the entire fight, but yes, the entire fight. Round 1, tentative start. Spohn had a big left. Probably could have ended the fight if he just followed that thing up. And then he went in for a takedown. Ended up in Monaghan's half guard. Then he gets mount. Spohn gets mount. Could have punched him out. That's what you do when you get mount. You punch the guy out. Yeah. And he didn't. Monagahan, who has Frankie Edgar, who, wait, yes, he's good on the ground. And he has, what, Henzo Gracie over there? Who's, let me think, yes, also good on the ground. Has 2 awesome jiu-jitsu coaches over there in his corner, and they're telling him what to do. In fact, they practiced some of this stuff in his training session that we got to see. They're telling him how to get out of it, and he doesn't listen to anything they say. Nothing. He's deaf to the coaches. Serious drawback in a pro fighter. I know I mentioned this before. It's a huge drawback. If you've got a guy who can hear his corner and he listens, and he gets into a bad spot in the middle of a fight, you can talk him through it. You can tell him what to do. He can work his way out. Johnny Bones, he can hear his corner. All right, there's a couple of fights where if you can listen and you can hear Genghis, I forget his real name. You listen to you can hear his coach sometimes. He'll call out some crazy combination because they speak in code. You know, he'll tell them 8 baseball or whatever the code is for the week. And Johnny Bones will do some crazy spinning elbow or, you know, jab cross flying knee or whatever. And it works. Bam! Knocks the guy down or something unexpected happens and Johnny wins. He can hear his coach. These guys that can't hear their coaches, they're killing themselves. They need to like practice listening to their coach somehow. I don't know how you do it. Maybe some guys just can't do it because they get adrenalized. They can't hear nothing. Huge drawback in a pro fighter. Anyway, Monagahan, he can't do it. He hears nothing they're saying. Or he hears them and he's ignoring them, which is even worse. If you're hearing your coaches and they're that good and you're ignoring them, you deserve to lose every time. So, take it up briefly. Spohn responds to what his coaches are telling him. They end up back on the ground. In case I skipped that part. Spohn has to defend against the Kimura. He's listening to his coaches. Oh, he defends against it. They scramble. He ends up back in the half guard, back in the mount, end of the round. Here's the thing. Spohn's coach's plan was ground and pound. Spohn went for that awful, ugly sister of the ground and pound, the lay and pray. He'd get on top of him. There was no punches. There was no real attempt for a submission. He was just, it's like, I don't know. It was terrible. So it wasn't a ground and pound like it should have been. It was a lay and pray. Awful. Second round. Monagahan flurry in the start. Pow, 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 pow. And then Spohn gets a takedown and ends up in half guard. Yeah, that's pretty much the fight. Monaghan's unable to escape. Spohn's not scoring much. He's doing the lay and pray. He's just laying on him. Which in his defense, Monagahan can't do anything about. But listen, for all you young fighters, this is not the way to get put into the UFC. All right? I'm going to give you a quote from the end of the fight. Because really, it was 2 rounds of lay and pray. That I'm going to save you the borings. Give you a quote from the end of the fight from Dana White. It makes no sense. Oh, what makes no sense, Dana? It makes no sense that Monagahan did not listen to his coaches over there. He had 2 great jiu-jitsu guys telling him what to do, how to get out of that thing, and get back to his feet where he could do some damage. He didn't do it. It makes no sense that Spohn, who's got a blasting hand, and we saw him get wicked knockout getting into the house. He knocked the guy out in 10 seconds or something, and the dude didn't get up for 5 minutes. Bam! He's not even trying to knock the guy out. He's not trying to say, hey, Uncle Dana, see this? Let me on the show. No. He's laying on a guy. Doesn't even try to get points when he's on top of him. Ground and pound, brother, not lay and pray. So, this isn't how you make the roster. This isn't how you get on the UFC. You can lose the show and still get a contract. We've seen that over and over again. But only if you make Dana happy and make the viewers happy. You don't get it by laying on top of a guy for 10 minutes. All right? So, all right, anyway, Spohn wins a 2-round decision. Oh, I'm sorry. Look, you got stoned. You got in the ring with another guy who was trying to beat you up, and you won. I'm not sure you furthered your career much, though. All right, just saying. So, next week is Williams versus Lima. I'm hoping that's a good fight. It's looking like it should be. I don't see Lima just laying under some guy for 2 rounds or laying on top of a guy. He's got a name to uphold. And that little skinny Williams guy, the North Boston Strangler or whatever it was, Northeast West Strangler, he looks like he wants to do some damage to somebody. So I hope that's what happens. Oh, yeah, and just an aside to Mr. Williams, Mr. Monagahan, yeah, if you somehow get another chance, focus more on the fighting and less on the preaching, brother. You're in the house to fight. Just a thought. All right, so I'm Mr. James from Charm City Karate. That's my review and comments on Ultimate Fighter Season 19, Episode 3. Peace. See you next week.